From what you said, it's almost like there's a sense of direction which isn't covered by science. So science can bring you many
That's right.
facts about the world. Science can make many observations and it can make many predictions
Yes,
based on what happens right now and what we choose to do. But science is only a method, and no matter how much we study reality, it's not going to be able to inform you as it's not going to be able to inform you on what to do, what's the best course of action, because there are so many variables and there are so many possibilities.
that's right.
Um,
And the methodology is a system. It's systemizing a method. The
that's right.
methodology is just a term we use to describe what systemizing.
Yeah,
It's a
that's right.
methodology. And we also might ask, there's this sort of there's always been this scientific spiritual dilemma, about how do we reconcile science with spirit and spirit with science. But it was spirit that drove us into science.
Yeah,
Science is something that, it didn't just happen in a vacuum. Our spirit of inquisitiveness, our
yeah,
spirit to know, our spirit, long before we had a scientific body of knowledge, we were inquiring. Okay,
that's right.
we were looking up at the stars. The shamans were talking to the tribes, if you will. We
Yeah,
were trying to ponder our place, contemplate our place in the universe. And it is that nature of to be inquisitive, to inquire, is the foundation, the bedrock of science, to
yeah,
inquire. And it was the mind's ability to systemize, to square things up.
yeah,
That is the foundation, and that's what science has come up out of. Okay,
yeah,
so science is only a tool of a spiritual dimension. Science is a tool. Okay, science
yeah,
is a methodology. We mustn't forget science is not something out there in a vacuum.
that's
Okay,
right.
something we discovered. Science is part of the embodied perspective of what we are as human beings. The fact that we can square things up, is a more picturesque way of saying systemizing. We square things up. We're trying to square up the cell. We're trying to square up our conversation so we can concur in a line and, move
That's
forward.
right.
So, let's not lose sight of the fact without spirit, spirit exists without science. Science does not exist without spirit. If
That's
we had
right.
not, if we had not become a scientific community, if we had not chased the cell and the molecule, okay, and we were all just living and we had relative understanding of medicine, say, we would still be spiritual. We would still be asking the big existential questions. What are we? Why are we here? Do we have a purpose? Is there a teleological journey we're on? And
Yeah,
so on. Spiritual questions that predate science. Science is an extension of spirit.
yeah. I mean, scientists like Richard Dawkins should be listening to you right now because, you know, even they are religious and they in a certain way, not the institutional way, but they focus, they aim at something. They believe that science is useful. They have to believe prior to doing science, Richard
Yeah.
Dawkins has to believe that there is a truth to be found and also that doing science is worthwhile. You know, you might ask him, what's the point in doing science? And Richard Dawkins will say something like, well, it's um, it's practical because the more we know about the world, the more we'll be able to navigate within it, and the more we'll be able to improve ourselves, something like that. And the
Yeah.
thing is, it's always aiming at something. So it's almost like he's blind to the will to that systemic eye that it is teleological in a way. It aims at something, and it's trying to
Yeah.
improve itself. It's trying to learn more about the world. And in a way, I like something you said in your book. You said, we are the phenomenological spanner
Yeah.
trying to lock down onto the ontological nut.
No, that's
And
right.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, well, in relation to science and Dawkins and so on, I have respect for Dawkins. And look, science is an essential part of our way of being. Science is important. Science is medicine. You break your leg in the morning, you're going to be surrounded by science. I mean, like, I love all these hippies that write off science, and they've no time for it. But if you have a car crash and you wake up in a coma, you have woken up because science is all over you.
yeah,
Science is so important. But like I said, by probing, you can't probe reality to understand it. You can understand its exponential energies and how to utilize them, and so on, to
yeah,
help us live longer and thrive better. That's essential. But you can't know something. What's the thing that does the probing? What we have to ask questions like, what's necessary contingency for thinking? What's necessitated true is a set of modes which allows to systemize. These are obviously have necessary contingent, because thinking is contingent on systemizing. It's
yeah,
contingent on it. So we have a set of modes that are necessitated through us for thinking. Okay, and they allow us to probe. They allow for the methodology to come into place. So the Dawkins and all of his ilk, Sam Harris and them all, they all write off God, and yet they haven't even grounded man. I mean, that's the question begging. If you're going to write off God, now I don't mean the fluffy God in the sky, but no points for writing off that God. As I wrote in my book, a 10-year-old can write off the fluffy God in the sky story, the magic wand and making the earth in 7 days, and the devil is down in hell and all that. You're not getting a trophy, a big medal for writing off that story. Okay, that's simple. But that's the God paradigm they keep debunking. Okay, we're not part of that God paradigm. That's an absurd God paradigm. Okay, we're trying to think with an ontological eye that is rising through the phenomenological lens to know itself. That's the teleological journey. That's the story of God. And